Hello, today I will tell you about an incident that happened quite a long time ago. In 1972, in Japan, there was an unsolved case. A young American woman went on a solo vacation to a hot spring inn. During this time, she met with misfortune. The police found 5 photos in the woman's camera that could be the key to solving the case. The main character of the story was named Sarah Johnson, 24 years old. Her family had 5 members. Besides her parents, she had an older sister who was 28 and a younger brother who was 23. The 3 siblings were close in age and had lived together since childhood, so they were very close. Their family lived in Gunma Prefecture, Japan. Gunma is an inland prefecture in the central part of the Kanto region of Japan, located near the Tokyo metropolitan area to the south. Gunma has a city named Isesaki, where Sarah's family resided. Sarah was an introvert who didn't like interacting with others. After graduating from high school, she found a job at a nearby gas station. She was very serious about her work and had never been late. She was considered a good employee in the eyes of her coworkers. Sarah really enjoyed traveling. She liked going to different places to experience new things. She especially loved hot spring baths. Every holiday, she would travel to various places. The inns she chose were mainly hot spring inns where she could both travel and enjoy the hot springs. August 13th was the Obon Festival, the second most important festival in Japan after New Year's. People usually take advantage of the Obon holiday to return to their hometowns to worship their ancestors or go on trips. Of course, Sarah didn't want to miss this rare opportunity. She planned to take a hot spring trip with her mother and younger brother during the Obon holiday. They decided to go to Mount Kirizumi in Gunma Prefecture, about 60 kilometers west of Sarah's city of Isesaki. The scenery there is beautiful, and even in the hot August weather, the temperature there is only about 25 degrees Celsius, making it an ideal place for a cool getaway. There are also many hot spring inns there, with the most famous being Kirizumi Onsen. This hot spring inn is located at an altitude of over 1,000 meters above sea level, with natural sulfur hot springs maintaining a temperature of 39 degrees Celsius year-round. Even though it's summer, bathing in the hot springs here is still very comfortable and not at all unpleasant. After discussing with her family, Sarah booked a room at Kirizumi Onsen, planning to arrive at the inn on August 12th and stay for one night. However, no one could have guessed that she would never return from this trip. So what exactly happened on that day? And why did Sarah go there alone? Next, let's go back in time to August 12, 1972. Saturday, August 12, 1972. The weather that day was a bit hot but clear, very suitable for traveling. According to the original plan, Sarah and her parents were supposed to go to Mount Kirizumi together today. However, man proposes, but God disposes. There was a slight change in plans today. Sarah would be going to Mount Kirizumi alone. The reason was that on the previous day, her younger brother, who worked at a bank, suddenly had an urgent matter at work and couldn't arrange time off, so he had to miss this trip. Sarah's mother then invited a 39-year-old neighbor to go along. Unfortunately, just before departure, Sarah's mother also suddenly had something come up and couldn't go. To console her daughter, Sarah's mother asked the neighbor to accompany her. However, Sarah was introverted and not close to the neighbor. Moreover, there was a 15-year age gap between them. If they went together, it would surely be awkward. Therefore, Sarah decided to go to Mount Kirizumi by herself. Since this wasn't her first time going to Mount Kirizumi for hot springs, she had been there before, her mother agreed to let her go alone. That day, Sarah wore a dark blue short-sleeved shirt, a white skirt, a white hat, and sneakers. Then set off from home. In the 1970s, there was no direct public transportation from her home to the hot spring inn on Mount Kirizumi. To get there, one had to take a train and then transfer to a bus. Sarah's father drove her to Isesaki Station, gave her 10,000 yen for spending money, and reminded her to be careful on the journey. At 10:19 a.m., Sarah boarded the train at Isesaki Station. The train passed through Maebashi Station, Takasaki Station, and then arrived at Yokokawa Station. She got off the train at this station at 12 noon. From Yokokawa Station, where she was, to Kirizumi Onsen, there was still 13 kilometers to go. She needed to catch a bus to Kirizumi Onsen. However, she waited for a long time and no bus came. At this time, a toll collector driving by saw her. The man noticed her worried expression and asked if she needed a ride, offering to give her a lift. Sarah told the man where she wanted to go, and upon hearing this, the driver took her to the Kirizumi Onsen contact station. It needs to be explained that the Kirizumi Onsen contact station is located at the foot of Mount Kirizumi. This is a place that specializes in providing booking services for hot spring inns on Mount Kirizumi. At that time, communication in the mountain area was very inconvenient, so bookings could only be made through the contact station at the foot of the mountain. It's worth noting that there were no public buses going up the mountain, that only private buses from the hot spring inns. They had scheduled trips every day, moving along fixed routes to pick up and drop off tourists. The Kirizumi Onsen contact station at the foot of the mountain was one of the pickup points. The driver had taken Sarah to the contact station. She then waited for a while at the Kirizumi Onsen contact station, but still didn't see the pickup bus from Kirizumi Onsen arrive. At this point, she asked a middle-aged woman at the contact station how long it would take to walk from here to Kirizumi Onsen on the mountain. The middle-aged woman glanced at the high heels Sarah was wearing and said it would probably take 3 to 4 hours to walk, and that she couldn't make it up there in those heels. So Sarah bought a pair of white sneakers at a nearby store. She changed her shoes and was about to walk up the mountain by herself when the middle-aged woman at the contact station saw this and quickly ran over to stop her. She said that the mountain was very deserted and it would be very dangerous for Sarah to go alone. The middle-aged woman told Sarah to wait a little longer, saying the bus would be arriving soon. Sarah listened to the middle-aged woman's advice and decided to keep waiting. During this time, they continued to chat for a while. The middle-aged woman now had a very deep impression of Sarah. At 2 p.m., the pickup bus from Kirizumi Onsen finally arrived at the contact station. Sarah said goodbye to the middle-aged woman and got on the bus to Kirizumi Onsen. At 3 p.m., Sarah arrived at Kirizumi Onsen on the mountain. After arriving, she registered her name at the reception desk and went to her pre-booked room. She didn't leave her room during that time. Then at 5:30 p.m., Sarah went to the inn's reception desk and requested to cancel dinner for the other 2 people. After that, she went to take a hot spring bath. For the rest of the time, she stayed in her room and didn't go out, and so she spent a night there. At 8 a.m. the next morning, after breakfast, Sarah went to the water mill outside the gate of Kirizumi Onsen. She thought this water mill was very beautiful and wanted to take a souvenir photo. At this time, a waiter happened to pass by. He was a 21-year-old college student working part-time at Kirizumi Onsen. Sarah took out her camera and asked the waiter to take a photo for her as a memento. So the waiter took 2 photos for her. According to plan, Sarah was only staying here for 1 night, so around 10 a.m., she went to the reception desk to check out. She was wearing the white sneakers she had bought yesterday and planned to walk down the mountain by herself. The female innkeeper saw her leaving alone like this, ran over to call her back, and advised her to wait a while and take the bus down the mountain, which would be faster and safer. However, Sarah declined the innkeeper's suggestion. She said she wanted to take a walk. After that, she left the inn and walked alone on the path leading down the mountain. We know that Sarah arrived at Kirizumi Onsen on Saturday, August 12th. According to the plan, she would only stay at Kirizumi Onsen for 1 night and return home on August 13th. However, by Tuesday, August 15th, Sarah still hadn't returned home. This made her family extremely worried. Due to the outdated communication technology at that time, her family couldn't contact her. Sarah's older sister personally went to Mount Kirizumi to search for her. When she arrived at Kirizumi Onsen, the innkeeper said that Sarah had left the hot spring inn on the morning of the 13th. The innkeeper also mentioned that she hadn't taken the bus down the mountain that day, but had walked down by herself. Sarah's older sister searched all the locations on Mount Kirizumi, but couldn't find any trace of her. Therefore, early in the morning of August 16th, Sarah's father went to the local police station to report the incident and request police assistance in the search. After receiving the report, the police immediately sent people to Kirizumi Onsen to investigate the situation. After gathering information, they dispatched a search team to Mount Kirizumi to look for her. At the same time, Sarah's father also organized a search team of about 10 people, starting from Kirizumi Onsen and searching down to the foot of the mountain. At 4:30 p.m., they discovered something. Someone in the search team saw a wooden hut by the road down the mountain. He felt very suspicious, so he went over to take a look. He only saw many flies buzzing around the hut. Beside the wooden hut, there was a river with a dam. The wooden hut was a temporary residence for the workers who had built the dam previously. The hut was 4 meters wide and 7 meters long. After the dam was completed, the wooden hut was abandoned and no one used it. Why were there so many flies now? They entered the hut and finally found Sarah, who had been missing for several days. She was fully clothed but showed no signs of life. Her body was covered by some cardboard. According to the forensic examination, Sarah had been stabbed more than 20 times. The fatal wound was a stab to the heart, which was very deep. No signs of sexual assault were found. The time of death was estimated to be between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. on August 13th. The Gunma Prefectural Police took the case that occurred on Mount Kirizumi very seriously and mobilized more than 200 police officers to participate in the investigation. The police found a white hat, a travel guidebook stamped by a high-class hotel, a watch with its hand stopped at 10:09, and a camera in the wooden hut. There were also some of Sarah's daily necessities, totaling about 40 items. Inside the wooden hut, there was a lot of blood, so the police conducted a luminol test and tried to find the direction in which the killer had fled. What surprised them was that there was only blood inside the wooden hut, with no blood traces found outside. We all know that if the killer had stepped in blood when leaving, they would surely have left traces. The results of the luminol test showed no traces outside the hut. This could prove that the killer had some anti-investigation capabilities. Perhaps this wasn't the first time they had committed a crime. The police suspected that the killer might have run along the dam next to the wooden hut to get to the other side of the river after leaving the hut, then thrown the murder weapon and other evidence into the river. To verify this hypothesis, they sent divers to search the river near the wooden hut, but nothing was found. In the wooden hut, the police also found some rubber sole footprints. However, these footprints seem to have been there for a very long time, possibly left by the workers who had built the dam before. Therefore, this clue was difficult to follow. The police conducted investigations at Kirizumi Onsen and another nearby hot spring inn. A total of 27 employees were interrogated, but no discoveries were made. At that time, there were more than 30 people doing bush trimming work on Mount Kirizumi. After interrogation, the police ruled out suspicion of them. There were 5,000 households on Mount Kirizumi. The police conducted 2 investigations on these 5,000 households, but no one could provide any clues, and nothing suspicious was found. The police initially ruled out the possibility that these workers and residents had committed the crime. In 1972, 2 kilometers away from where Sarah's body was found, there was another dam under construction, with about 200 workers working there. Could those workers have committed the crime? August 13th, the day the crime occurred, was the Obon Festival. The workers there were all on holiday and had returned home. Many of them had alibis. After some investigation, the police also gradually ruled out suspicion of them. August 12th and 13th were holidays. Many people came to the hot spring inns at that time. The check-in procedure for guests was quite simple. Guests only needed to register their names to get a room. Some people liked to use fake names, so it was very difficult for the police to find them based on the registered names. Nevertheless, the police were able to confirm that nearly 260 people had come to Kirizumi Onsen and another nearby hot spring inn on August 12th and 13th. They also confirmed that more than 300 tourists had come to the hot springs during the day. These people only came to bathe in the hot springs and left immediately, not staying at the inn. The police also investigated all of these people. Some witnesses provided clues to the police. They said that around 1 p.m. on August 13th, the day of the incident, they saw Sarah walking alone near Lirchi Falls, 800 meters away from Kirizumi Onsen. Looking at the map, Kirizumi Onsen is at this position, while the position where Sarah was seen by witnesses is here. It's worth noting that witnesses saw Sarah at 1 p.m., while she had left Kirizumi Onsen at 10 a.m. From Kirizumi Onsen to the place where Sarah was seen is only 800 meters, but it took her 3 hours to get there. This is very strange. It's possible that she had gone to play at a nearby tourist spot before coming back here. What the truth is, no one knows. Another family who also came to Mount Kirizumi for a trip provided the police with clues about seeing Sarah. They said that after checking out of Kirizumi Onsen around 1 p.m. that day, they drove down the mountain. At around 2 p.m., they saw her walking down the mountain alone on the road. The location where this family saw Sarah was 1.5 kilometers away from the wooden hut. At that time, they felt it was very dangerous for a girl to walk down the mountain alone. So they offered her a ride down the mountain, but she declined. This was the last reported sighting of her. After that, no one saw her again. The forensic team estimated that the time Sarah was killed was between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. This means she was killed on her way down the mountain. We all know that the police found a camera in the wooden hut. The film inside was still intact. They developed 5 photos from that film. The first and second photos were taken at the watermill in front of the gate of Kirizumi Onsen, taken by the waiter for her. So what about the remaining photos? At that time, a Japanese newspaper published a photo. This photo was a full-body shot of Sarah. The photo showed her standing next to a waterfall. Walking down the mountain from Kirizumi Onsen, you would pass 2 waterfalls, Lirchi Falls and Duan Falls. These 2 waterfalls have very different shapes. Based on the scenery in the background of the photo, it can be seen that it was Lirchi Falls. That day, someone had also seen her near Lirchi Falls. On the evening of the same day that the newspaper published the third photo, a 22-year-old man named David contacted the editorial office. David said that the photo in the newspaper was taken by him. He said that on the 13th, he had gone fishing at Lirchi Falls with some friends and met Sarah there. She wanted to ask him to take a few photos for her. At first, he didn't want to, but Sarah said he just needed to press the shutter button. After pressing it once, David pressed it again, so he took 2 photos. The editorial office reported this information to the police. After that, David suddenly disappeared. The police conducted an investigation based on this name and found that the personal information provided by this person was fake. On August 20th, the newspaper published the 4th photo from the camera. This photo looked exactly like the 3rd photo, but in fact, there were some small differences. This matched David's statement about taking 2 consecutive photos. Unfortunately, David had provided a fake name and the police couldn't find him. The most important thing in the camera was the 5th photo. The police never released this photo. This made the case even more mysterious. Everyone was speculating about what the 5th photo was. Someone who had seen this photo said that the last photo was taken at Duan Falls and was also a full-body shot. However, this information was not confirmed by the police. A version of the 5th photo once circulated on the internet. Many people mistakenly believed it was the real photo, but in fact, it wasn't. This was an image created by internet users for reference. The scenery behind the image is not Duan Falls, but some forest. Based on the many versions circulating on the internet, there is one common point that everyone agrees on. The 5th photo is a full-body shot. As for whether other people appear in the photo or not, and where the photo was taken, the police have not disclosed. Looking at the map, Lirchi Falls is at this position, while Duan Falls is at this position. The 3rd and 4th photos were taken at Lirchi Falls. The time the photos were taken has been confirmed by the police to be around 1:30 p.m. This also matches the witness statement of seeing Sarah near Lirchi Falls around 1 p.m. The last place Sarah was seen was here. To get to this position, one must pass Duan Falls. It's worth noting that no matter where Sarah took the fifth photo, the person who took the photo is the key to solving the case. The location where the fifth photo was taken is still undetermined. Internet users speculate that the photo was taken at Duan Falls. However, after the incident occurred, the photographer remained silent. Based on some clues, the police speculated that the killer might be someone who drove to Mount Kirizumi to fish or camp, or a local person with a criminal record. Mount Kirizumi is an ideal fishing spot in summer. There's a river called Kirizumi River here. At that time, it was also during the Obon holiday, so many people had come to Mount Kirizumi to fish. Beside the wooden hut where Sarah's body was found is a dam, which attracts many people who drive there to fish. The police speculated that the weapon used to kill Sarah was very similar to the type of knife used to prepare raw fish. We all know that the police discovered some footprints in the wooden hut beside the dam. These footprints were thought to have been left by previous workers. However, some fishermen also wear similar rubber-soled shoes. The police followed the clues about the fishermen to investigate them. They found that more than 30 cars were parked near the wooden huts on the afternoon of the 13th, most of which belonged to people who had come to the Kirizumi River to fish. The police conducted eliminations and finally identified 7 most suspicious cars. They thoroughly checked all 7 cars but didn't find anything suspicious. It is known that the total number of fishermen in Gunma Prefecture reached over 15,000. It was difficult to find a suspect among so many people. Besides hot spring bathers and fishermen, there were also many hikers on Mount Kirizumi. The police also conducted many investigations targeting this group. However, at that time, there were no surveillance cameras on the mountain, and there were many tourists. The police couldn't investigate in detail everyone who had appeared near the wooden hut. Next, the police found 5 local people with criminal records. However, these 5 people were completely absent from the area related to the case during the time of the incident. After that, the police continued to investigate for many years. In 1974 alone, the police mobilized a force of more than 8,000 people, checked more than 6,000 people and more than 1,400 vehicles, but still couldn't find the killer. By August 1987, the 15-year statute of limitations for prosecution had expired according to the law at that time. This meant that even if the police found the killer, they couldn't prosecute them criminally. Continuing the investigation no longer had much meaning. And so, the Kirizumi hot spring case became an unsolved mystery. The video ends here today, and I'll see you in the next videos. Goodbye.